Hey guys, I thought I'd do a different kind of video today. I thought I'd do a tier list, a Dwarf Fortress weapons tier list. Since a lot of you have seen my previous video about the best weapon in Dwarf Fortress, I couldn't exactly list out all of my favorite weapons in Dwarf Fortress. So this was a great opportunity for me to show you guys how much I prioritize some weapons and how much I don't prioritize some. Now again, this is going to be my opinion, and I may like some weapons you don't, and I may not like some weapons that you do. At the end of the day, Dwarf Fortress is a procedurally generated game. The way you use your weapons is completely different from the way I use mine, and the way you equip your dwarves and train them is completely different from the way that I do it. So this is just my experience. Dwarf Fortress is a pretty diverse game, and it's got a lot of diverse weapons too. But there are mainly four types of weapons: slashing, piercing, crushing, and ranged. Now, under these four types of main weapons, you could say, there are multiple other weapons that your dwarves can't exactly create themselves because they're constituted as foreign weapons that your dwarves can't exactly make or reverse engineer. So, for example, you could make a sword, but you could also buy a two-handed sword or a scimitar from a human trader, which would be completely impossible for your dwarves to create. But getting a scimitar or a long sword is a lot harder than just making a sword yourself. So I wouldn't exactly recommend relying on traders to get your weapons because you can't exactly tell the humans to bring you more swords. Okay, let's get it started. We're going to start with our first category, that's slashing weapons. Under slashing weapons, there will be battle axes and swords. Now, these two are different. These two are quite hard to list out. I mean, I see uses in both these weapons. I mean, axes are pretty useful. They can be used. We can use axes to chop down wood, but swords are pretty useful too because you can chop people in the face and also pierce them with a sword. But I have to say, axe would be an A tier weapon and sword would be a B tier weapon. Now, why do I say this? Because of one main reason. The battle axe is just way more effective against animals and goblins and other besiegers of your fortress who are wearing full chain armor. So what I'm trying to say is battle axes is just way more effective against creatures wearing armor and creatures that are not wearing armor. So like, this battle axe would be a lot more effective against a goblin wearing a full set of iron armor and iron chainmail and leggings versus this sword, which would be like way harder to hit a goblin, a fully armored goblin that is. And also, I've also noticed that the woodcutting skill is directly proportional to how good you are with battle axe. So you could just have your squad of woodcutters pick up their axes and just start mowing people down. Meanwhile, you'd have to train like a specific group of dwarves with swords and wait until they become like legendary or even for them to do any damage against large groups of enemies. Meanwhile, you can just have woodcutters come in. You could just enlist a group of woodcutters and destroy an entire army of goblins with a battle axe. So yeah, that's why I think battle axes are A tier and swords are B tier. So both these weapons aren't exactly very good at fighting undead, since both these weapons end up cutting off body parts and those body parts end up coming back to life because you're fighting the undead. Of course they're going to come back to life, so those organs come right back to life and start trying to choke your dwarves out. So these two aren't exactly that useful in my opinion, but they're still solid A and B tiers. In case of an emergency, you need these two. Alright, moving on to our next category, crushing weapons. Under crushing weapons, we have warhammers and maces. So I think you already know how I feel about the warhammer. I think, yeah, don't do I even need to explain this? Like, I made a whole video about this, why the warhammer is the best weapon in Dwarf Fortress. If you doubt me, just go watch that video. I completely break down why the warhammer is the best weapon. But I'd say the mace is A tier too. But like, if you can have a warhammer, why make a mace? Why even bother making a mace? Like, they both cost the same, but the warhammer is just way more effective than the mace. I don't know just how much more effective the warhammer is than the mace because I haven't exactly tested this out, but I think I will in the new game. But the warhammer is effective against basically everything. Now, there are some creatures that the warhammer is ineffective against, like bronze titans or bronze forgotten beasts or something. So basically what I'm saying is, if the creature is made of metal, your best tool would be something that pierces, like a sword or a spear or a pickaxe, but a Warhammer wouldn't exactly be very good against a creature made of, like, say, a bronze titan walks in. Your Warhammer wielding dwarves can't exactly do anything. But like that's such a niche thing. Like it's very, most of the time you're going to be fighting goblins and other forgotten beasts. So your Warhammer is pretty much perfect against goblins and forgotten beasts, and it's perfect for your captain of the guard to dispense justice with. In case one of your dwarves starts acting like an idiot and just starts doing crimes, you can just use this Warhammer and just beat some sense into it, and then he'll be fine. So I still think the Warhammer is best. It's like an all-round, all-weather, perfect tool for your dwarves military, and you definitely need to make this. Once you try the Warhammer, trust me, once you equip your entire squad with Warhammers, you'll see why this is so good. Moving on from the whole Warhammer kissing the Warhammer's ass, we shall see our next category, which is piercing weapons. Now there are many things that come in this piercing weapons, mainly spears and pickaxes. So I definitely say pickaxe might be S tier. Like pickaxe, you don't know. Let me tell you guys why I think the pickaxe might be S tier. In case of an emergency, like and your whole military gets killed, like your entire military dies in a siege, and then like a forgotten beast attacks you, and you just need a military, you can just assign your miners inside your military, and they'd use their pickaxes against the enemy, and they'd actually be pretty good. Because I'll tell you why. Just like the battle axe, which is directly proportional to how good a dwarf would be with a battle axe according to his woodcutter skill, a dwarf would be very good with a pickaxe depending on his mining skill. Now this is very good because mining is a very easy skill to make. I mean, that's literally all your miners do. All they do is mine. They don't have any other jobs, so they're pretty much perfect. Most of your miners will be legendary level if you make a big fortress like me. And you know how good a legendary miner is with a pickaxe, literally on the same level as like a legendary hammer dwarf, and it takes like half the time. So that's why I think pickaxe is like S tier. You guys need to try this out. Like combat pickaxes. This is the new meta, I think, in Dwarf Fortress. The Warhammer and pickaxe meta. Like have half of your squad with Warhammers and half of your squad with pickaxes. You'll be unstoppable. And spears, there we have the spears. I guess the spears would be the failure of the piercing weapons group. I'd say C tier. Like just I don't even like spears. Yes, I'm definitely biased towards spears. I just don't like them. I don't know why I don't like them, but they're not very good. I'll tell you why I don't like spears. They're just not good against anything. Like they're not good against wildlife. They're not good against goblins. They're not good against armor wielding goblins. They're just not good at anything. This spear is like, it's not even that good at keeping people at a distance. Like you'd use a spear to like keep the large groups of enemies at distance, but it doesn't even do that, so it's just useless. If you used a spear in like your weapon trap, it'd be way more useful than just giving a dwarf your spear. Like save the military, save the dwarf, just don't use this spear. You know what, I just hate the spear. D tier. I don't like the spear. Our next category is our smallest category, which would be the ranged weapons. Of course, we have our crossbows. Now, the crossbow might be S tier or D tier or even B tier. The crossbow is the most variable. The crossbow could be in any of these tiers depending on how you use your crossbow. Now, if you use your crossbow just for combat, your dwarves can't exactly do anything. All they're going to do is just hit people with this crossbow, like bonk them on the head with a crossbow. It's not going to do anything. C tier, if you like know how to use the ammunition and the quivers and it's just, the crossbow is like the hardest weapon to use for a person in Dwarf Fortress, because you have to figure out the quivers, you have to figure out the ammo that they use, you have to figure out how to train your dwarves. Basically, you have to set up a whole archery range just for your military dwarves to get better at crossbows. So like, it's really hard, but like if you're willing to put in the work, your crossbows might be S tier. Like if you make, let me rephrase that. If you make, your crossbows might be S tier, but most of the time they'll be A tier. Now let me say why. Let me tell you why. Now let me tell you why I think the crossbow is A tier. If you put in the work, if you put in like the understanding of the crossbow and the various mechanics that go into making a crossbow squad work, like you have to figure out the ammo, the quivers that they use is just huge. It's just making the crossbow is pretty easy, but like making your dwarves use the crossbow properly, that's just the hardest part. Making your dwarves shoot good, that's hard, but making your dwarves smash heads in, it's pretty easy. Let me tell you why the crossbow is A tier. This is the main reason. I think the crossbow is A tier because if you like make a crow's nest or like a archer tower, like in Clash of Clans or something, if you make an archer tower with like just like one level of walls and a few floors, I guess, and like fortifications for your dwarves to shoot out of, that could literally be like the best thing in your fortress, the best mode of defense, I'd say. Like if your crossbow dwarves just climbed into the archery tower, just started raining down crossbow bolts on all the besiegers and wild animals and stuff, like it's pretty much over. The siege will be pretty much over before you know it, and there'll be a bunch of dying and bleeding goblins lying on the floor with bolts sticking out of their necks. That's why I think the crossbow is definitely one of the best weapons, if and only if you're willing to put in the work and make the crossbow work. I definitely say that I wouldn't encourage new players to take on the crossbow. I'd say get better at all these other weapons first, like get to know how all these other weapons and their mechanics work first, and then try and do something with the crossbow. Because like I'd suggest you have like a working squad of at least one of these if you try making a crossbow squad work, because it's pretty hard. So yeah, that was my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments down below what you thought. Also, this tier list is available on Tier Maker, so if you want to check it out, it's in the link down below, or you can just type in Dwarf Fortress weapons and you can make your own tier list of your favorite weapons, and you can tell me in the comment section below whether I was right or wrong in this tier list, and if you would agree with me or not. And anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.